Welcome back, everybody. We're diving into some pretty deep stuff this time around.
Been a golly deep.
Judgment and forgiveness. Those are the big concepts on the table, and I think it's something we all struggle with.
Oh, for sure.
Like figuring out how to balance those things in our own lives and in the world around us.
Absolutely.
And you sent over some excerpts from a lesson called The Power of Understanding, Walking in Knowledge, Judgment, and Forgiveness.
Yeah, part 2 specifically.
Part 2.
Okay.
That's a two-parter.
Got it. And it really got me thinking because it kind of frames these ideas in a way I hadn't thought about before.
It's thought-provoking for sure.
So we're going to unpack what biblical judgment and forgiveness actually mean, how they relate to each other,
Right.
and ultimately how understanding both can help us navigate a world that often feels pretty unfair.
Especially these days.
Yeah, no kidding. So we're diving into the second part of this Christian-focused lesson.
Okay.
But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's start with the basics. How does this lesson define judgment and forgiveness, biblically speaking?
Yeah, like straight from the source.
Well, the source really emphasizes that judgment in a biblical sense is God's authoritative decision on what's right and wrong.
Okay, so it's not just about being good or bad,
Right.
but about understanding there's a higher authority making those pronouncements.
Exactly. It acknowledges that actions have consequences.
Like you reap what you sow kind of thing.
In a way, yeah, and that sin ultimately has a price.
That's a powerful concept.
It is. And then forgiveness, on the other hand, is depicted as God's merciful act of releasing someone from that debt of sin.
So it's about grace there.
Exactly, about breaking free from the weight of those wrongdoings.
Okay, so we've got judgment emphasizing accountability and forgiveness emphasizing grace.
Yes.
But they both exist within the same framework.
Absolutely.
And I think that's where people get tripped up sometimes. Like, how can a God also be a forgiving God?
That's the paradox, isn't it?
It is, and that tension is actually highlighted beautifully in the lesson through the example of Jesus on the cross.
Oh, that's a powerful one.
Talk about a situation where both judgment and forgiveness are front and center.
Exactly. Even as he was enduring unimaginable suffering, Jesus prayed for those who were crucifying him.
Wow.
That's forgiveness in its purest form.
It really is.
But the lesson also points to prophecies that foretold judgment for those who rejected him.
Like the parable of the vineyard owner, right?
It's a one.
The one where the owner sends his son to collect the harvest, but the tenants kill him instead.
Yeah, a pretty stark image.
It is.
This parable really paints a vivid picture of how rejecting God's grace can lead to consequences.
So it's a reminder that while God offers forgiveness, it's not a free pass to do whatever we want.
Right, there's responsibility that comes with it.
A recognition that our choices matter.
Absolutely. But I'm also struck by the lesson's point that forgiveness isn't just for the offender.
It also profoundly impacts the one who's been wronged.
Exactly. Holding on to resentment and bitterness can feel like a heavy chain, weighing us down emotionally and spiritually.
It's exhausting.
It really is. And the lesson argues that forgiveness is a way to release that burden.
So it's not about condoning the wrong.
Right.
But about freeing ourselves from his grip.
Exactly. And to illustrate this point, the source uses the story of Zacchaeus, the tax collector.
Zacchaeus, what a great example. He was known for being dishonest.
Yeah, not exactly a stand-up guy.
But then he encountered Jesus and his whole life changed.
It's a dramatic transformation. Zacchaeus not only repented acknowledging his wrongs, but he also went a step further and made restitution.
He repaid those he had cheated.
4 times over.
Wow, that's huge. It wasn't just about saying sorry. It was about taking concrete actions to right his wrongs.
Absolutely, actions speak louder than words.
Which makes me think about another story the lesson unpacks. The good thief on the cross. What's so significant about his story in the context of judgment and forgiveness?
Well, the good thief, crucified alongside Jesus, offers a powerful contrast to the other thief who was mocking Jesus.
Yeah, there were two.
He acknowledged his own guilt, stating that they were justly condemned.
Taking responsibility.
And he recognized Jesus' innocence, and in that moment of surrender and humility, Jesus promised him paradise.
So it's about owning up to our mistakes, not shifting blame or making excuses.
Right.
And in that space of sincere remorse, forgiveness becomes possible. But it's interesting, the lesson presents these 3 practical steps for actually living with both judgment and forgiveness, not just reading about them in a book.
It gets practical.
Where do we even begin?
Well, the first step might seem counterintuitive, but it's about releasing through forgiveness. It encourages us to forgive those who have wronged us, even if they haven't repented.
So even if they haven't said they're sorry or tried to make amends?
Well, this isn't about condoning their actions, but about freeing ourselves from the grip of bitterness.
It's like saying, I'm not going to let this hurt control me anymore.
Exactly.
It shifts the focus from the offender to the victim's own well-being.
Right, but how can we truly forgive someone, especially when the wound is still fresh?
Yeah, that's a tough one.
It's not easy, and it certainly doesn't happen overnight.
It's a process.
The lesson acknowledges that forgiveness is a process, not a switch we can flip on and off.
So you don't have to do it all at once.
No, it requires a conscious choice to let go of the anger and resentment, even if it's just a little bit at a time.
Okay, so it's like chipping away at a wall brick by brick. You don't have to demolish the whole thing at once, but you keep working at it until you see some light coming through.
I like that analogy, and as we practice forgiveness, we also need to remember the second step, to leave judgment to God.
Okay, so we're called to forgive.
But ultimately, justice belongs to a higher power.
So it's about trusting in God's timing and letting go of the need for revenge. It's
Wow.
about surrendering control and believing that there's a bigger plan at play.
Right, we're not in charge of the universe.
Thankfully, sometime.
Exactly. But what about our own shortcomings? How does judgment play a role in our own lives?
That's a good question, because we can be pretty hard on ourselves.
We can, and that brings us to the third and final step, surrendering and repenting ourselves.
Okay, so turning inward.
Just like the good thief on the cross, we need to own up to our wrongs, seek forgiveness, and make amends where possible.
It's like looking in the mirror and saying, okay, I messed up. I need to take responsibility for this.
And it goes back to that idea of restitution we talked about earlier, but this time we're the ones making amends.
Right, trying to right the wrongs we've committed.
Precisely, it's about acknowledging our own imperfections and taking steps to right our wrongs, both with God and with those we've harmed.
Okay, so we've got these 3 steps. Release through forgiveness, leave judgment to God, and surrender and repent.
3 powerful steps.
But it's one thing to hear them and another to actually put them into practice.
Right, where does the rubber meet the road?
Exactly. That's what I'm wondering too, because it all sounds good in theory, but how do we make it real in our lives?
Well, that's where intentionality comes in. We have to actively choose to integrate these principles into our lives.
It takes effort.
It requires a shift in perspective, a willingness to see things through a different lens.
So it's not just about a one-time act of forgiveness or judgment, but about cultivating an ongoing posture of both
The way of being in the world.
that acknowledges both the need for accountability and the power of grace.
That's a powerful way to put it. And it's a constant process, isn't it? We're going to make mistakes. We're going to be hurt.
That's part of being human.
But we can choose how we respond.
It's like that quote, forgiveness is giving up the hope that the past could be any different.
I like that one.
But it's not just about letting go of the past. It's about creating a different future one,
Yeah.
where we're not bound by bitterness and resentment.
Exactly. And it's a journey, not a destination. We may stumble along the way, but the key is to keep moving forward with grace and compassion for ourselves and others.
I think that's a beautiful place to pause. For now, we've unpacked a lot, from biblical definitions to practical steps, and even touched on some powerful stories.
It's been a good conversation.
But I have a feeling there's even more to uncover.
Oh, there definitely is. In fact, the first part of this lesson dives into the foundational concept of knowledge itself.
Oh, that's interesting. So how does knowledge fit into this whole equation of judgment and forgiveness?
Well, that's a question we'll explore in more depth in the next part of our deep dive.
Stay tuned, folks. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. You know, before the break, we were talking about all those practical steps.
Releasing through forgiveness, leaving judgment to God, surrendering and repenting ourselves.
All that good stuff. But you can't really do any of that if you don't first understand what those concepts even mean.
Right. It's like trying to bake a cake without knowing what flour or sugar is.
Exactly. And that's where this idea of walking in knowledge comes in.
Okay, so knowledge is the key ingredient.
You could say that the first part of this lesson really emphasizes that knowledge isn't just about accumulating facts.
It's not just trivia night.
Right. It's about understanding them deeply, especially when it comes to our faith.
So it's not enough to just know the 10 Commandments, for example, but to actually grapple with what they mean for our lives.
Exactly. How they shape our choices and interactions with others.
So it's about putting those teachings into practice.
The source argues that true knowledge transforms our hearts and minds.
Powerful stuff.
It influences how we perceive the world and ourselves.
That makes sense. Because if we don't have a clear understanding of what's right and wrong, how can we even begin to make judgments about ourselves or others?
That's a good point.
And how can we truly offer forgiveness if we haven't grappled with the weight of the offense?
That's where things get tricky.
Because sometimes it's easier to just react emotionally,
without really thinking things through.
without understanding the WHY behind the what.
Right. And the lesson points out that this kind of deep knowledge requires humility.
Humility. That's interesting.
It's about recognizing that we don't have all the answers.
That our understanding is always evolving.
We're all works in progress, right?
Okay, so humility is key.
Mm-hmm.
But how does that tie into this whole idea of judgment and forgiveness?
Because those can be tricky concepts even for people who've been studying the Bible for years.
Yeah, it's not always black and white.
Well, think about it this way. When we approach these topics with humility, we're less likely to jump to conclusions or make harsh judgments.
We're more open to seeing different perspectives,
Considering the context.
acknowledging our own biases.
It's like that saying, everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about.
Oh, I love that one.
We can't possibly know all the factors that led someone to make a certain choice or the struggles they might be facing.
Right, everyone has a story.
And that understanding should lead us to both greater compassion and greater discernment.
So it's not about being naive,
No, not at all. We can still hold people accountable for their actions.
but we do so with a deeper understanding of their humanity.
Exactly. So knowledge informs both our judgment and our capacity to forgive.
It's about seeing the whole picture, not just a snapshot.
A panoramic view.
But doesn't this also suggest that there's a danger in having limited knowledge?
Absolutely. The lesson warns against making judgments based on incomplete information or personal biases.
So like judging a book by its cover.
Exactly. It's a reminder to check our assumptions and seek understanding before rushing to condemn.
It's like forming an opinion based on a headline without reading the whole article. You're missing out on so much nuance and context.
Right. And when it comes to forgiveness, limited knowledge can make it difficult to extend grace.
Because you might not fully understand this situation.
You might underestimate the hurt that's been caused or the challenges the offender is facing.
So it's about resisting the urge to make snap judgments,
Taking breaths.
seeking a deeper understanding of the situation,
Asking questions.
listening with an open heart.
Beautifully put.
And this whole discussion about knowledge really brings us back to the heart of what this lesson is all about, the power of understanding.
It's the foundation.
It's like knowledge is the foundation upon which both judgment and forgiveness can be built.
Without that foundation, everything crumbles.
And when that foundation is strong, based on humility, discernment, and a willingness to seek deeper understanding,
Then we can navigate the complexities of life with greater wisdom and compassion.
we're better equipped to handle those curveballs
Mhm.
life throws our way.
Exactly. It's not about having all the answers.
It's about being willing to ask Care the questions,
To learn and grow.
to approach each other with curiosity and empathy,
That's what this lesson is all about.
the power of understanding. It's amazing how much ground we've covered in this deep dive into judgment and forgiveness.
I know, right? We've gone from biblical definitions to practical steps.
Even touched on some pretty powerful stories along the way.
Yeah, the good thief Zacchaeus.
But you know what strikes me is how often we think of judgment and forgiveness as these totally separate things.
Like they're on opposite ends of the spectrum.
Exactly. But this lesson, this power of understanding thing, it suggests they're actually intertwined.
More like two sides of the same coin.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
And understanding how they work together, that's what empowers us to live more fully.
And navigate this crazy world with a little more grace.
So much grace.
Definitely. We've talked about the biblical definitions, the importance of seeking deeper knowledge, and those practical steps for actually, living these concepts out.
Putting them into practice.
Yeah. But for me, one of the biggest takeaways, and this might sound kind of counterintuitive, is this idea of surrender.
Oh, tell me more about that surrender thing.
It's about surrendering our need to be right all the time.
Which can be tough.
Oh, absolutely. Our desire for revenge.
Letting go of that eye for an eye mentality.
Exactly. And our tendency to just hold on to those grudges.
Which can be so heavy.
It's like carrying around a bag of rocks.
Weighing us down.
Yeah. It's about letting go of that bitterness and trusting in a higher power to bring about justice.
Okay, so it's about recognizing that we don't always have to be in control
Sometimes the best thing we can do is just step back.
and let go.
It's like we're releasing this helium balloon that's been tied to the ground,
And it just floats away.
unburdened. And as we practice the surrender, we not only find freedom within ourselves, but we also create space for others to experience it too.
Because forgiveness has this ripple effect, doesn't it?
It can break down walls, mend broken relationships.
It's like planting a seed.
Yeah.
You might not see it at first, but with time, patience, and a little nurturing, it can grow into something truly beautiful.
I love that analogy because forgiveness isn't always easy.
Definitely not.
It takes effort, it takes intentionality,
Sometimes it even feels like it takes a miracle.
but the rewards, they're immeasurable.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you hope our listener takes away from all of this?
I hope they're left feeling hopeful and empowered
To really embrace these ideas.
to understand and to actually practice both judgment and forgiveness in their lives.
Because they're not just some abstract concepts, right?
They're tools we can use.
To build a better world.
A world where we approach each other with more compassion, more humility, and more of a willingness to see beyond our own limited perspectives.
Because ultimately, it's in that space of understanding and forgiveness that true transformation takes place.
That's where the magic happens.
Well said. And remember, this conversation doesn't end here.
We hope it continues.
We encourage you to revisit this episode, explore the source material, and keep pondering these ideas.
Let them simmer.
Because the more we understand about judgment and forgiveness, the better equipped we are to navigate the complexities of life with grace and wisdom.
And a whole lot of heart.
Thanks for joining us on this journey. Until next time, keep diving deep.